through.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that sounds appetizing to me. So,
Yeah, it's nice.
yeah. So, man, I'm looking forward to getting into your story. Thank you for taking a minute out. I
No, thank
appreciate
you,
it.
man. I was looking at some of the people you've had on this podcast, and I was like, man, I'm just incredibly flattered that you'd even consider having me. You've had some really inspirational people doing some really wonderful things, and I'm just really, really flattered to be on. So thanks so much for the
Yeah.
opportunity.
Absolutely. No, and you're totally in the group. And I want to begin our conversation before we get into this love of wine and everything that's evolved into who you are. And 4 years ago we were trying to figure out this pandemic. There was so much that was going on. Ultimately, right now, kind of being out of it, I know there's been surges here and there, but how did you make it through that time period and how did it change the way that you live your life now?
It was really interesting. I was at the time enjoying a very fruitful career in financial services. So I was in sales and consulting. I handled the distribution for the Southeast for a major Fortune 100 insurance company. And so my days were filled with face to face meetings with advisors, talking about clients, talking about cases, talking about opportunities. And then when the pandemic hit, all the travel shut down, all the face to face meetings shut down. So everything we were doing was now via Zoom and via phone. So just operationally, my world had changed because again, I was so used to that personal face-to-face engagement. I was rarely, if ever, in an office environment. I'd be in 8 o'clock at night or on the weekends where I could get more done in 30 minutes than I could, 7 hours if I was there with people kind of coming in and out of my office. So I was used to being out and being active and being face to face. And obviously that completely shut down. And then, like everybody, that I've always considered myself a very personable individual. I like energy. I like being around people and, kind of being quarantined and being in my house. And, you know, that was an adjustment, but it's interesting. I think people either looked at that as an opportunity or looked at that as an excuse. And for me, I had all this time on my hands and, projects around the house I had been wanting to do forever and, series that I'd heard about for years and didn't have the time to sit down and binge watch and, doing master classes online and reading books and try to use this as kind of a self-improvement opportunity because, experience had kind of taught me that as uncertain as things were, this was really going to be probably a pretty unique opportunity if you looked at it that way. So I really tried to use that as an opportunity to talk to people on the phone and, catch up and have those meaningful conversations and maintain and rekindle relationships. And again, I was got a subscription to Masterclass and was doing things online and was reading books and articles and magazines and just trying to feed my brain and feed my soul a little bit. So looking back on it again, an amazing experience, I think, for all of us. And I think like everybody, that perspective that we all took from, what's really important in our lives and what do we want to focus on. And it's really been interesting, that shift coming out of the pandemic. And I think the long-term lasting effects of that are pretty apparent when you look at, how people are spending money and how they're spending their time and who they're spending their time with. It's almost like the whole world just needed kind of a reset. And I
Yep.
think that that's basically what happens. Kind of a fascinating thing.
Certainly did. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the curious kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
We try to create amazing experiences for people. That's what we do. We are in the hospitality business. That's what we do.
So, what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream?
Probably a doctor,
Okay.
oddly enough. Yeah. I was always fascinated by doctors and started off pre-med in college and
Okay.
got into it for a couple of years. And it was after my sophomore year and I was interning with physicians and was on the pre-med track and just didn't enjoy what I was studying and was talking to doctors. And they all kind of said, I'll tell you what, it's not really about that patient client interaction anymore. It's about billable hours and reimbursement rates and insurance companies. And if I had it to do all over again, I probably wouldn't do it. And I was just kind of like, wow, that's telling. So that I always loved money and finance and switched my major after my sophomore year from pre-med to finance and came back to my junior year and went in a completely different direction. And again, was in business for all my career. So
So take me back to where you're born and raised and how the seeds of being in business and then eventually evolving into, you know, being a managing partner of Bottle Bank and being a wine lover. How did all of this evolve into who you are today?
I had a, storybook childhood, wonderful parents, younger sister. We grew up in outside of Atlanta. My parents both worked, made tremendous sacrifices for my sister and I. Middle class, upper middle class family, and again, just a wonderful, loving, supportive environment. My parents always encouraged me. They gave both my sister and I, they gave us wings, they gave us independence, and always encouraged us to go out and do what we love. And again, just to this day, they're just fantastic people. I feel incredibly fortunate to have them in my life. My father was in sales, so I kind of got an informal education around the dinner table, listened to his day and things he was dealing with and the ups and downs of sales, which is pretty interesting. And again, it just kind of always loved business and finance and money and how it worked. And when I started studying it, really enjoyed it. And then started off as a financial advisor, had my own advisory practice for 4 or 5 years and loved working with individuals and kind of talking about what they wanted to accomplish financially and putting together a plan to do that and hold them accountable to get there. And then after 4 or 5 years, I switched to the wholesale side of the business. So I was no longer advising individual clients. I was now advising the advisors who were advising their individual clients. Did that for about 15 years. And kind of backing up, when I turned 40, I kind of, like most people, just took inventory of my life, Joe, and thought about, how am I doing and what do I want for the second half? And I really realized that what I wanted for the rest of my life was actually pretty simple. What I really wanted to do was I wanted to eat well, I wanted to drink well, I wanted to travel well, and I wanted to spend time with people that I loved and care about who loved and cared about me. And that was really, the best times of my life were centered around some combination of those things. So fast forward to the pandemic and it's the fall of 20. So we're in the middle of it and the world is ending and the company went through a major restructuring in their distribution and I ended up not having a seat at the table. And so I had the opportunity to sit down and really think about, what do you want to do? And at the time I was 45 years old and I had no wife and no kids and no real responsibilities and realized, man, I can literally do anything I want to do anywhere in the world. And I realized most people never get that opportunity and even fewer get it in the prime of their life. So I looked at that as a tremendous blessing and an opportunity. And so I was kind of brought back to that conversation I had with myself when I turned 40. And I said, you know what? I'm going to create an environment where like-minded individuals can eat well and drink well and spend time with people that they love and care about, sharing a passion. And that was kind of the beginnings of Bottle Bank.
So talk to me a little bit about inspirations, heroes. Who has been that fuel for you in your life?
Um, I think on a personal level, again, my parents were very different in a lot of ways, but very similar in a lot of ways. I got the best of my father and I got the best of my mother. And again, they're just really, really good examples of honest, hardworking people. I've got wonderful friends in my life, people that are kind of in my inner circle. They're there for a reason. And so there's something, or in most cases, many things that I truly admire about them. If they're intelligent or they're kind or they're detail oriented or they're strategic in their thinking or they're accomplished or they make personal sacrifices. Those are qualities that I try to incorporate into my life. And I have those people in my life. And then professionally, there's a lot of folks. I'm a big Las Vegas guy. I love going to Las Vegas. I don't gamble, but I love the energy and again the food and the drink and the hotels and the experiences. And so there's several people out there professionally that I really admire when you look at the things that have been accomplished out there in terms of food and beverage and hospitality. It's a pretty special place. So there's several individuals out there that I've enjoyed the fruits of their labor, and try to incorporate some of the things that they do philosophically when it comes in terms of taking care of a guest, and incorporating that into what we're doing at Bottle Bank. So
So speaking of business, and there's all these examples of people that have done really well. If you could be around one person in the realm of business that you admire and look up to, who would it be? Who'd you love to meet and hang out with a little bit?
Steve Wynn,
Okay.
yep, from Wynn Resorts. Amazing story. Again, he's more or less responsible for the modern day Las Vegas, built the Mirage in 1989, which really kicked off that 20-year boom in Las Vegas. It was really the whole concept of an integrated resort. His attention to detail, his attention to creating an elevated experience, empowering his people, surrounding himself with talent. He's motivational, he's inspirational. Again, he continues to top himself. Every project is, more unique than the one before, that kind of set the bar, and he keeps, setting his own bar. And again, just a tremendous talent in terms of creativity, and what he ends up offering his guests. Amazing.
So being highly driven and achieving as much as you have in your career, what has been that motivation for you every day to wake up, to do this job, to affect people's lives, but to also evolve yourself as a human?
I think the inspiration and the motivation for me is, I like to make people say, wow. I like to give them experiences that they've never had before. I like to show them something that they've never seen before. I like to spark an interest that they never knew that they had. That's a wonderful, wonderful gift you can give somebody. And if you're responsible for, again, creating that memory or that experience, those are things that people remember and talk about forever. And that's a great responsibility, and it's a wonderful opportunity. That absolutely drives me. And I think, just the ability to get better. It's that grind. It's that paying attention to detail. It's that, God's in the details. It's that, inches matter. It's the little things that really add up. And that's the difference, because most people don't take the time to worry about those things, but it is the details that really matter. And I love getting into the details, and I love figuring out how to exploit the details to create that elevated experience and that level of refinement that you just don't see much anymore.
What has been one of the clients that you've had, or a certain period in your career where you grew a lot? It may have been difficult, but the results were really sweet. What was one of those times, whether it's a client or it was a specific period? Was there one of those for you?
I think this process has forced me to grow a lot. Um, Again, coming from a financial services background, more of a corporate environment, to now, purely entrepreneurial, looking at hospitality, one of the hardest industries out there. It was a lot of soul searching. I could have gone and gotten a job. And there was a time where I took some time off, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to think about this. And then I started taking interviews with recruiters and looking at different opportunities, and realized that I'd be re-engaged for about 18 months, and then I would be right back to where I was. I was restless, I was bored, I was stagnant, but I was kind of winning at the game of life, and the ends justified the means. And again, the perfect storm allowed me to kind of make a decision that I probably didn't have the courage to make myself, Joe. If I'm being honest, sometimes life chooses for you, and I found myself in that position. I said, man, I'm going to make a run at this. And that process. And I think, to answer your question, bringing other people in an advisory role, other people that are very good at what they do, and listening to them and asking them questions and building a team. That's been a wonderful process. And I'm just, again, amazed and flattered on how many people are just so generous with their time and with their expertise. It's made things a lot easier, but there's been days we've, been on this road for a couple of years, and we've had some major disappointments and some major heartaches. And but the interesting thing is, and the lesson is, every time we've found ourselves at the next step, we've been in a better position than we were before. So those disappointments, that's what creates um, that experience and that knowledge, and forces you to be creative and to think differently. And without those failures, you're not hardened, and you don't get the best of yourself. You learn more from the failures than you do the successes, as they say. And I think that's 100% true. And I've definitely learned that the last couple of years for sure.
So speaking of successes, of everything that you've done and accomplished up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
I think the perseverance with me and the team, I think the way we've done it, I'm very proud of that. There's been many opportunities to fold the tent, and we just kept going because we believed in the concept, and we believed in what we could create, and we knew that we can do it better than other people. And it's that unshakable confidence and that faith that you have to come back to. Um, that reset, I think that's what I'm the most proud of, is just the tenacity and the perseverance to push forward. Kind of sounds like a cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, sure. No, I dig it. I get it. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone around you, but you're running the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm someone that's malleable. I think I'm someone that has a very strong understanding and sense of self on what I bring to the table. But I also am humble enough to understand that there's other people that do a lot of other things better than I do. So I think that is the sign of a true leader, is someone that can lead by example and can be inspirational, but at the same time can yield to those others that are better equipped in that specific arena or idea or situation, and empowering people, giving them the confidence to make those decisions and to make those contributions, and then collectively lead the conversation holistically to determine the best outcome. I think that's my skill set. And I think taking a concept that's pretty complicated and communicating it in a very simplistic manner is another skill set that people have told me I possess, that I think has been pretty handy, not only in motivating and assembling a team, but also wine in general as a topic for a lot of people can be very intimidating, can be very pretentious. And sitting down with somebody and just having a conversation about why Cabernet tastes different than Pinot Noir, and watching somebody smile and watching that light bulb click on in their head like they got it for the first time, and you provided that. That's a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
I have a jazz radio show, and I always feel like the way you describe wine is the same way. There's this level of highbrow and confusion that goes into it, but at the elemental level, there's such a visceral joy that goes into it, like wine. Like, yeah, it does take a little bit to figure out what you're doing and rolling it around and just getting it matched up with the right foods and the right environment and all of that. But once you figure that out, do a little legwork, it just becomes something that's fun. That's all there is to it.
That's it. And back to our earlier conversation, in jazz, it's very spontaneous, and you are throwing from person to person. You have to trust the musicians that you're with, and you bring them on and they bring you on, and it's very collaborative. But each musician trusts the other magician, and the collective whole is better than the individual solo. And that's one of the beautiful things about jazz, and similar to running a team in business as
Yeah.
well.
And even sports, like
Absolutely.
a successful team like the Braves, they're consistently good and it's a team effort, right?
Most certainly.
And you guys got one of our guys from back in the day, Whit Merrifield was one of our favorites for a while. So
Yeah, the
he
team's not doing as well as they have been, but that's a good thing. You look at the playoffs the last couple of years, man.
exactly.
You know,
This is the time where there's dips and everybody's like, uh-oh, because the Royals are doing it. But
yeah,
it all everything stops when that postseason comes around. That's when
that's
it
it.
really happens.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So, as somebody that loves Vegas and loves the energy, if we get off this call, a time machine pulls up, and you could go back in the history of Vegas and see one thing with your own eyes, where are you going?
I'm going to the Sands Hotel in the Copa Room to watch the Rat Pack perform live.
Man, I was hoping you would say that. I was so hoping you would say that because that would be it. Are you kidding me? To see those guys
That's it.
in the
That's it.
heyday, that would be
Yeah,
mind blowing.
yeah.
Just them riffing off of each other. Everyone knows that that's the biggest act on the planet, and there's just the clinking of glasses and the whole thing. It would be so cool.
Everybody dressed in suits
Oh
and
man.
women dressed in gowns, and again, we like you said. I mean, the biggest act in the world, to see them in a showroom of that size versus a Taylor Swift where there's 80,000 people you're watching the show with. I mean, you don't get that anymore. And those guys work two shows a night, and Louis Prima's playing till 4 in the morning in this
Yep.
other lounge, and this entertainer's going to see this guy, and this guy opens for this guy, and it's just that community of of musicians and entertainment was such a big part of Las Vegas growing up. I would have given just about anything to experience that just once, man. What a ride, what a
Yeah,
rip.
that would be a great ride. So man, if anyone wants to reach out, learn more about what you're doing, indulge any of the good business, where do they go?
Bottlebank.com.
Okay.
All of our information is on there. We're targeting an opening middle of next year. So we're in the design phase and the build out phase, and lots of fun stuff coming up as we get closer. We've got some fun things planned in terms of activities and events, and marketing opportunities for Bottle Bank. And so yeah, follow the journey, follow the ride, and come by for a glass of wine if you're in Atlanta. We'd love to host you and show you a good time.
Right on. Damon, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Keep doing the wonderful work, man.
Joe, appreciate you, man. Thanks for the opportunity. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, sir.